The night of December 12, 2004, was meant to be one of the proudest moments of Judge William Carter's life. His only son, Daniel Carter, was graduating from law school at the University of Toronto. Following in the footsteps of a long family legacy in the justice system, the city glowed under a crisp winter sky, the campus illuminated by strings of golden lights as friends and families gathered to celebrate. Daniel, 24, moved through the crowd with an easy smile, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, and posing for photographs. His father, a stern but respected figure in Ontario's courts, even allowed himself a rare smile. "Your mother would be proud," William told him, his voice breaking slightly. Daniel glanced at the stars as if to send her a silent message. After the ceremony, the graduates and their guests drifted toward the reception hall. Laughter, music, and the sound of clinking glasses filled the air. At around 11:45 p.m., Daniel leaned toward a friend and said he was going to the parking lot to grab something from his car. That was the last time anyone saw him. When he didn't return after 20 minutes, friends began to worry. By 3:15 a.m., Judge Carter's phone rang. It was one of Daniel's classmates, voice shaking, explaining that no one had seen him since he left the hall. The judge's heart sank. Within an hour, Toronto police were combing the campus and nearby streets. Daniel's car was still parked exactly where he had left it, his coat inside, keys in the ignition, and his phone on the passenger seat. No signs of a struggle, no witnesses, just silence. By sunrise, news of Daniel Carter's disappearance had spread through the University of Toronto campus. Detectives interviewed everyone who had been at the reception, from classmates to catering staff. No one had seen him leave the parking lot. Security footage from nearby cameras showed Daniel walking toward his car at 11:46 p.m., glancing over his shoulder twice, and then the footage cut to static. Technicians later confirmed that the malfunction occurred on only that one camera, at that precise time. Judge Carter stood in the cold morning air, his overcoat buttoned tightly, watching as officers searched the surrounding area. Every hour that passed without answers felt like a personal failure. He knew the statistics: the longer someone is missing, the slimmer the chances of finding them alive. For weeks, police scoured the city, draining a pond on the edge of campus, and sending divers into the Don River. Flyers with Daniel's photograph were posted in subway stations, coffee shops, and law firms across Toronto. The media followed the case relentlessly, not just because of who Daniel was, but because of how suddenly he had vanished. Still, months passed, and leads dried up. Eventually the case was moved to the cold files. Despite Judge Carter's protests and political influence, it was as if Daniel had stepped into the shadows and never returned. The family home in Rosedale grew quieter with each year. The once proud judge, now a man who barely spoke about his son. That silence lasted until 6 years later, when a routine landscaping project on the university grounds would shatter it forever. It was a grey morning in early May 2009 when Michael Green, a 64-year-old groundskeeper who had worked at the University of Toronto for over 4 decades, began trimming shrubs in a quiet courtyard behind the law faculty. The area was rarely visited, its brick pathways winding around an old stone fountain. Kneeling to replace a dying azalea, Michael's spade struck something solid beneath the soil. At first he assumed it was a buried rock or a piece of debris from an old renovation. But when he brushed away the dirt, the glint of gold caught his eye. Lifting it from the earth, he found a chain with a small pendant, a pair of scales, the symbol of justice. Michael froze. He had seen this before. Years earlier, he remembered a student wearing the same pendant during graduation week. It had been in the newspapers. His name? Daniel Carter. The memory sent a chill through his spine. Just then, Margaret Lowe, the campus librarian, passed by and asked if he had found something. Michael quickly pocketed the pendant, mumbling something about stubborn roots. He didn't know why he hid it, only that an uneasy instinct told him to. That evening, at home, he dug out an old box of university memorabilia and newspapers. In a yellowed article from 2003, there was Daniel, smiling beside classmates, one hand clutching his diploma, the other resting near the same gold pendant now sitting on Michael's kitchen table. He stared at it for a long time, knowing deep down this was no coincidence. The next morning, Michael made his way to the dusty archives room tucked away in the basement of the library. He knew Margaret had been at the university long enough to remember every major incident, and she kept meticulous scrapbooks of old events. When he cautiously brought up Daniel Carter's name, Margaret's eyes narrowed. "I haven't heard that name in years," she said, pulling a worn folder from the shelf. Inside were newspaper clippings, photos, and official announcements from 2003, the year Daniel vanished. One photograph, taken at the graduation ceremony, made Michael's stomach twist. There was Daniel, the gold pendant gleaming against his black gown, the same courtyard clearly visible in the background. Michael pointed to it. "Was this area ever renovated?" he asked. Margaret thought for a moment. Yes, oddly enough, early 2004, just a couple months after his disappearance. It was rushed. New benches, new plants, even the fountain got replaced. Everyone thought it was strange, but the administration said it was just part of a campus improvement project. Michael felt a cold shiver creep down his neck. He had worked those grounds for decades, yet he remembered no formal announcement about that renovation. The fact that the pendant was buried here, in soil untouched since that time, was no coincidence. And if something as personal as Daniel's necklace had been hidden under the courtyard, he feared what else might still lie beneath. He realized then someone had gone to great lengths to ensure the truth stayed buried that night. Michael couldn't shake the image of Daniel's smile from his mind, frozen forever in that photograph. By morning, he was back at the courtyard, this time with a small hand trowel tucked discreetly inside his jacket. The campus was quiet, only the distant hum of early lectures breaking the silence. Kneeling by the flower bed where he had unearthed the pendant, he carefully pressed the blade into the soil, feeling for anything unusual. Only a few inches down, the trowel struck something hard. His heart began to race. Brushing away the dirt, he uncovered the corner of a small, rusted metal box. The lock was brittle with age, and a gentle twist with his screwdriver snapped it open. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was an envelope sealed with the crest of the British Columbia Supreme Court, and beneath it, a small USB drive. Michael's pulse pounded in his ears. The official seal meant this was no ordinary piece of lost property. Whoever had hidden it knew exactly what they were doing, and why it needed to remain unseen. Standing up, he quickly slipped the box into his satchel, glancing around to make sure no one had noticed. Somewhere deep down, Michael understood that whatever secrets lay inside could either solve a mystery or put him in real danger. And right now, he wasn't sure which was more likely. Michael knew he couldn't open the envelope or plug in the USB drive on campus. Too many eyes, too many questions. Instead, he called the only person he trusted with something like this, Dr. Eleanor Hayes, a retired professor who had taught at the university for decades and had mentored Daniel years earlier. She agreed to meet him at her home that evening. By the time Michael arrived, Eleanor had already prepared a small workspace in her study, away from any internet connection. "We'll keep this completely offline," she said, her voice low and cautious. Michael slid the envelope across the desk. Eleanor carefully broke the seal, revealing a folded sheet of paper covered in numbers, likely a code, and a short list of names. Her brow furrowed. "These are senior officials, judges, attorneys. This is no coincidence." Michael then handed her the USB drive. She inserted it into an old laptop she kept specifically for sensitive research. One file appeared, a video. As the screen lit up, Michael felt his stomach twist. It was Daniel, older than in the graduation photo, but clearly nervous, speaking directly into the camera. "If you're watching this," Daniel began, "it means I didn't make it, and you need to know the truth." The video quality was grainy, but Daniel's face was unmistakable, pale, tense, and darting glances toward something off-screen. "I've spent the last 6 months investigating something I should never have touched," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "During my internship at the courthouse, I found sealed files documents showing a network of corruption involving my father, Judge Robert Calloway, and at least 4 other high-ranking officials." He held up a stack of papers, flipping through them quickly. These files proved they took bribes to alter verdicts in drug trafficking, fraud, and corporate crime cases. Millions of dollars moved through hidden accounts, some in offshore banks. "I confronted my father 2 nights ago. He denied it at first. Then, he told me it was for the good of the family." Daniel's eyes glistened. "But how can it be for the good of the family if it destroys everything we stand for?" He paused, breathing heavily, then leaned closer to the camera. "If anything happens to me, the proof is in his office safe. The code is on the paper you should have found with this drive. Don't trust anyone in this city's justice system. They will bury the truth and maybe me along with it." The screen went black. For several seconds, neither Michael nor Eleanor spoke. Outside, a gust of wind rattled the windows, but inside the room, the silence was suffocating. "This changes everything," Eleanor finally said. "And it means we may be in danger right now." That night, Michael couldn't sleep. Every creak of the old apartment made him wonder if someone had found out what they now knew. By morning, Eleanor had already called her contact in the federal prosecutor's office, someone she trusted outside Alberta. But before she could arrange a meeting, Michael noticed a dark sedan parked across the street. 2 men in suits sat inside, one of them with a camera pointed directly at Eleanor's building. "They know," Michael whispered, pulling the curtains shut. Eleanor's jaw tightened. "Then we have less time than I thought." She placed the envelope and the flash drive inside a metal lockbox. "We're leaving this city now." As they packed in haste, Michael's phone buzzed with an unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answered. A deep voice said only, "If you care about your life, forget what you saw in that video." The line went dead. Michael's hands trembled as he slipped the phone into his pocket. Minutes later, they were in Eleanor's car, the lockbox wedged between them. The winter wind howled as they drove toward the outskirts, but the sense of being hunted clung to them. In the rearview mirror, the same black sedan followed at a steady distance. "Do you think Daniel's body is really under that courtyard?" Michael asked quietly. Eleanor didn't answer right away. her eyes fixed on the road ahead. "We'll find out," she said finally, her voice resolute. "But first we survive long enough to tell the world."